The White House saying President Trump will decide on a strike on Iran within the next 2 weeks, while the conflict in the Middle East escalates between Israel and Iran without a resolution in sight. Mark Esper, former Secretary of Defense and former Secretary of the Army, joins us now. It's great to have you, Secretary Esper. What do you think President Trump will do?
Well, good morning, Sarah. Look, first of all, I thought he made a smart decision by pausing the clock, if you will, and giving himself more time and giving the situation more time to develop. There is so much more to consider than just whether we can send a couple B-2 bombers over Fordo and bomb it or not. The questions have to be about, what is the effectiveness of the strike? How long will it take them to rebuild the infrastructure? And then what will Iran do the next day? And the vulnerability of U.S. service members and facilities in the region. And then, of course, you got to consider what are Arab partners in the region thinking? What's their view? Because they host the 40,000 or so service members that are in the region and where our bases are as well. So there's a lot to consider here. So I think it was a smart move to slow things down, let the situation develop. Let's see how talks go today in Geneva. They're ongoing right now, and then reassess as you go along.
If the U.S. does not get involved, can Israel complete the mission on its own?
Possibly. I mean, there's always the option for a ground assault of some sort. That would be very risky, but could be effective. I think whether it's a ground assault or whether it's an aerial assault using U.S. bombers, eventually we're going to need to get people on the ground in that facility, whether it's military personnel from a friendly country or IAE inspectors, which is far more likely. We're going to need to know what happened, how much destruction was there. And look, Sarah, keep in mind, we still don't know where the 900 pounds or so of enriched uranium is to 60%. We need to track that down as well, because that gives you enough capacity to make up to 10 nuclear weapons.
Is there any realistic scenario where Iran comes to the table and there's a diplomatic resolution to this? Any talks? They haven't shown any willingness to do so, but the Iran foreign minister is meeting with European foreign ministers. It's interesting because Israel and the United States are not present at that meeting. But is there some sort of ending here that can happen without further escalation, where it's talks?
Yeah, I think that's the key question. Look, I think at the end of the day, whatever happens, there's going to have to be a negotiation with regard to what Iran can and cannot do afterward, and inspections and surveillance and all those things we need to make sure that they don't pursue a program beyond what's happened now or in the coming weeks. You're right about the Iranians. Look, they're talking tough going in. The foreign minister said Iran would not negotiate while the conflict was ongoing, but yet he's sitting in Geneva. So you tend to have a lot of tough talk on the outside. Much of that is for domestic consumption in Iran. We'll see what happens behind closed doors. I was pleased to read that the foreign ministers of Germany, the UK, and France have said, look, we're going to talk not just about uranium enrichment, which should be off the table, which they should not be allowed to do, but also ballistic missile production and the export of terrorism throughout the region and the world. So I think that's a great starting point. I think those are high hurdles for the Iranians to get to. But at some point in time, their country will continue to get devastated and will need to come to the table. And look, I know something important to your viewers. We've yet to see a heavy impact on the Iranian economy, particularly the energy sector. And, if Israel moves to that first, attacking in large measure sites such as Karg Island, that could have a dramatic input on energy production, on the global economy. And so there are all these incentives for there to be some type of negotiation. The question is, given the regime, its head, its popularity, or I should say unpopularity with the Iranian people, what's it going to take to get them there?
Yeah, we got some notification from one of the shippers. The Hapag-Lloyd today said that the traffic out of the Straits has been uninterrupted so far. Do you think about how easy it would be to mine that area if the Iranians chose to do so, and what that would do to certainly a quarter of all oil traffic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. 20 to 25% of energy supplies coming through the Strait of Hormuz. It would not be difficult for them to mine it or, of course, obstruct it with some type of sinking of a ship. That's something that we always kept in mind. I'm sure the Israelis are, too. It would not be hard to sink the Iranian Navy, but you have to be 100% successful if you're going to prevent that. But that's just another key factor that's sitting out there that could have, an impact on global energy supplies. And look, I might add, too, Iran doesn't have too many allies out there, but the allies they do have, Russia and China primarily, depend heavily on Iranian oil being shipped to them. So there's those impacts with Iran supporters as well that Tehran has to take into account.
Finally, while we have you, I hope you won't mind a question. Your name got invoked in these hearings for Secretary Hegseth this week, where Senator Slotkin said that Secretary Esper, had more guts than he did when it came to dealing with the use of military on protests here in the homeland. Your thoughts on how it's been deployed so far and maybe this appeals court decision last night?
Look, I'm going to stay out of the domestic politics happening on Capitol Hill. The court made a ruling with regard to the deployment of the National Guard. There is a role, of course, for the National Guard when it comes to support to civilian authorities, and the court made a ruling, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right, Secretary Esper, really appreciate you weighing in on the Middle East and helping us understand
thank you, Sarah.
what could be next. Good to see you, Mark Esper, former
Good to see you.
Secretary of Defense.